Hi, I'm Kelly.
I'm Rich.
And we are Wanderbus Adventures.
This week we are finishing off our composting toilet and our underbed drawers.
As well as a couple of other things. But first of all, we're going to answer a question from last week.
Now, we had one comment actually, which was really interesting. How tall is the toilet? With the lid, it's going to be about 54, which does sound quite high, and it is actually. However, we needed to make it tall enough to go over the floor and the shower tray that's coming in the shower room. By the time this is in and slid into the bathroom, the height of this, if you like, from the ground will actually be less than what this is. It still will be slightly taller than a normal toilet, so I've been in and measured my toilet. I think we'll come in at around sort of 48, 49 by the time it comes in over the floor. So it will be about 6-7 centimeters taller than our toilet that's in the house. Yeah, thank you for pointing it out. The lid that was going to go on here was going to be made with this same phenolic plywood, but for a number of reasons I'm actually going to recut it out of some birch ply. Once it's varnished, I think that will look nicer. You know, it'll be waterproof and all of that good stuff, but also I'll be able to take the lip off of the edge of it so it's not so sharp. And then I've got some decisions to make on how it's going to be orientated and hinged. The first job was to cut a full sheet of 15mm birch plywood down in size, so I had a smaller piece to work with. Tell you what, cutting through this 15mm stuff, this is a like decent saw, like for the hobbyist, and yeah, you go slowly with it because it's thick stuff and it's so heavy. Like, I had to ask Kelly to help me lever it up onto the bench because it's just so heavy. I definitely don't think I'm going to be building too much stuff out of 15mm birch. Anyway, I need to just tidy this plywood away. You spend quite a lot of time just moving stuff around. It's a bit like the Krypton factor, but with wood and more boring. I need to cut this down now for the lid. If I do this right, I can cut the toilet lid out of this, and then I'm hoping that this bit here can make the front face of the drawers. Maybe. The first thing I'm going to do is draw around here and here, and then I'm going to cut it off, cut it round, and then we should have a matching box lid to what we've already got here. One box lid. Now, how do we divide this up? I need to make some decisions on how it's going to hinge and function. So I'm just going to make, I've got these heavy duty piano hinges, and I'm going to put other hinges inside of the box because the lid's quite heavy. I've got a couple of options really here of how it could operate. So I'm just going to make up a little jig from the scrap that I've got here from the 12 and the 15mm just to see how these function. One option I have is to mount them on the side like this, which works. I think, obviously not with that big screw like this is just my jig. This might work for the side. I think what I'm going to do is cut a strip along the back and then hinge it on the top. And then that way we can support underneath with some batten here, just so it's a little sturdier really, and then we'll be able to clear the wall as well when it hinges up. That's going to require a little bit more cutting. 2 more cuts, I believe. Let's measure it up and make sure we get it right. Yeah, this thing here, this is such a useful tool. So I've just used it to take the measurement from here to here, and now I can place it on my board to accurately put where I want my cut across here to be. Yeah, really useful. Father-in-law bought me this. It's brilliant. Thank you. And what we'll have is a strip that goes along the back where we can attach our stuff to. God, it's nippy today. If you're building a van at the moment, let me know how you're coping with the cold, because we're lucky. We've got a garage to work in. It's still cold out here. There's no point in putting the electric heater on because it just all goes straight out the door. Anyway, let's get this cut up. I'm going to use my plunge saw with the rail to try and get this as straight as I can. I would love a table saw, but actually this will get most things done that I need it to do. I then cut the flap for the compartment on the left hand side. So we've got the main lid here. That's obviously going to have a hole in it soon for the toilet. Strip the runs on the back, and we've got this here that I need to decide whether I'm going to orientate so it turns that way or if it comes up that way. And actually either will work. So I've just spaced it with some 2mm shims. And what I think I'm going to do next is attach the back piece. I pilot holed through and then added some wood screws up into the plywood. So I've put some from underneath to hold it in place for the time being. That way it should be nice and sturdy. We don't want it to go anywhere. It's the last thing you want when you're sat on the toilet, is for the toilet to collapse on you. I'm just going to put enough screws to take this for a test drive. I'm going to take this apart afterwards to varnish it. So I'm just going to put like 6 screws in for now, and we'll know what's what. I'm just going to pilot hole in it with a pilot hole in it. I'm just putting a pilot hole through with a very, very fine drill bit, shallower than what the screws are. So this works a treat. What I will say is I could have placed this piano hinge the other orientation around, so just this part showing. It doesn't look too bad. I think if I'd done it the other way, the gap here would have been bigger. Anyone doing it, consider both ways that they could go, because I must admit I didn't before I put it together. It's not the end of the world, because I think it's still going to look nice, but I could have hidden that hinge in there. Not the end of the world. This here, I'm going to try and get something to hold it so it's upright, because I'm going to try and actually put the toilet roll on there if I can. That comes down on there like that. Then this folds down like that, and then there we are. So we just need to varnish this now. I'm going to take this hinge off and varnish the whole lot, and then when the toilet bit arrives in the middle, we can cut that hole out and varnish that bit as well. The gaps down here and here look nice. Next, I used a round over bit in the router to create a curved smooth edge on the front. In an earlier video, you might remember me adding some heating elements to our tanks, and they're going to be powered, well, they were going to be powered by some basic thermostatic switches, but what I've managed to do now, so Victron have enabled the use of Ruuvi Tags. So I've installed those this week. I won't go into too much detail on this video, but I have put another video together for you to look at. Essentially what it's allowed me to do is to see what the temperature, the humidity, and whether the bus has moved in my GX device. And then in the future, I'll be able to link that out to a relay to power the heated blanket. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, it was just one thing I did whilst I was waiting for my other bits of the toilet to arrive.
Our toilet bits are now all here. They're made to order, so just bear this in mind if you do order them, because it takes a bit longer than you may think for it to arrive. So this is the separator. Weed goes in this hole, pull this off, poos. Simple really. And then this goes like this. Peas go into this pea pot. Sturdy, no splashbacks, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then poop goes in this massive poop container, which you put obviously a liner in, because you ain't going to be wanting to scrape poo out of your hand, are you?
Probably not enough.
Toilet 101 with Kelly.
The first step in putting this all together was to cut out a cardboard template for the hole. This was laid over the seat, and I marked up on some masking tape basically where I needed to cut that hole. So you can see here that you basically got the outline that you would like to follow, which was then cut out with a wooden jigsaw bit. 1 all. Just gonna take this off and sand this up. See if the thingy fits. It's a little bit tight on the front, on the back, so I'm just gonna take that off with a bit of sandpaper. I actually opted to just route around the edge with the rollover again. Alright, dry fitted. You see that it drops into the box on the P-pot. Got a gap at the back. I had a divider already cut, ready to go in to separate it, depending on where it would go. So we'll screw that in just to keep the box in place. Stop it moving about, and we'll have a little area at the back. Not that big, but big enough to store maybe a couple of bits and bobs, cleaning stuff and things like that, which would be cool. Neat. Right, okay, next job, I'm going to take the hinge off, take this apart, give it a very light sand and varnish it. Alright, before I carry on with varnishing the toilet, I'm going to cut up the front of the drawers over here. I've been in and measured the height of the bed. This is going to come up in front of the slats on the bed. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut it to height. And then what I'm going to do is take my pencil and draw around the inner edge of both faces, and then that is where I will cut with my plunge saw. I think a normal carpenter person would just probably measure this, but this seems like a way to maybe make it work, but we'll find out, won't we? For the drawer faces, I'm going to make them so they're inset. So I use my plunge saw to cut all the straight edges and then finish off the corners with a pull saw. Okay, so this is cut, drawers are cut. Before I varnish them, I'm just going to put some biscuit joint cuts in the front face of the drawer unit and the back face of the birch there, just to help align it when we do put it in. Because the way that I'm installing them in the bus, the unit will have to go in first, and then the face is kind of going in on top of it, so it can blend seamlessly in with the other units really, and we'll varnish it up before assembly. So I've just plopped a coat of this on. I've used this before, and I know that on the plywood it, like, you can't see it, it's satin clear floor varnish, diamond hard. I was going to use Osmo Poly-X oil on this, but I've only got the tinted version of it and I want absolute clear. I thought I had clear, but can't find it. I expect it will turn up later on in the build, but for this, where we're going to be kicking it and this, that and the other, that diamond hard stuff will be good. So just got to let that dry and then we can start assembling it. Friday, we're doing odds and ends today so we can get these cupboards put in under the bed, but before we can do that, there's a few things that we need to do. So we need to paint the ceiling so we don't get paint all over everything later. I need to fix a couple of things up on the wiring for the Cerbo and the Victron stuff, and we need to box in the electrics box. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. This brace here, I'm going to cut down to size now, and then we're going to attach it with some hinges and some other hardware just to keep the batteries in place, and that's going to be bolted down to the floor also. The odd thing I had to fix before we could continue was the Cerbo. So we found out when the HDMI was plugged in, it didn't work, so I had to move the antennas. Now that the Cerbo Wi-Fi is fixed, I'm just going to hook up the tank level sensors, simply a case really of snipping the wires off to length, putting some ferrules on the end, and then popping them into the side of the Cerbo where tank levels 1, 2 and 3 are. So we're going to run our freshwater and wastewater levels off this, and also our gas levels, and that leaves us with one analog one that we could use. We might use it for our P-pot or something like that. You can see all of those wires going into the side of the Cerbo here. I checked in the VRM that they were working too, and then screwed it back up to the backboard. Then after adding some Go Faster orange stripes, the electric install, back here at least, is done. Once those odd jobs were done, Dave and I lifted the box into the van.
Look, it's in!
Sort of.
Yeah.
Let's put it in so we can finish the drawers on the inside, because the face is going to go on the front of it.
Yeah.
I've not finished it yet, but this is what it will largely look like.
Looking good.
It's in, sort of, but now comes the next sort of set of montage clips of what I need to do. So I need to put the final coat on this part of the ceiling. I need to secure the drawers and everything to the floor. I'm just going to put it in a couple of places for now, and then we'll think about how to make it more sturdier when we take the toilet box out and stuff in the future. But yes, many jobs to do that are little and insignificant before we can get this to a stage where it's installed. This covered front here we made weeks ago, so we've given the back of it 2 coats of varnish. The front's only had 1 at the moment, but we'll give it another 1 once it's in. Because of the way that I'm putting the drawer front on the front of all of this, I need to put this on first. It is a little bit of a puzzle. And now that's on, I should be able to put the frame for the drawer fronts on. Oh, if this doesn't fit now, I'm going to puke. Lots of failing to get to this stage. Making it up as I go along. Right, what's next? So this seems to fit, and all I need to do now, I say all because there's lots to do. I'm just going to get glue, because I'm going to put these in with my biscuits to just align it. Hopefully that will help and not hinder. And then just like these ones, I'm going to put a couple of screws through the back. Okay, so the top one's in. I didn't film it. I don't know why. It's because I'm getting a bit tired. But how I did it was I put the face in and round, and then used my spacers, and then I've screwed in from the back. Now on the bottom that's not possible, so I'm going to try an idea that might work or might not. I'm going to put some double-sided tape on the back of it, and then space it the same, and then pull the drawer out carefully before I put my screws in. And that did work. Once I pulled the drawer out, I used some face clamps to just hold it in place, and then secured it with 6 wood screws. Alright, let's see if that worked. I need to clean up in here in a minute. Not bad, not bad. And after that, I was straight back onto the toilet, securing the piano hinge and sealing in the diverter. Fairly neat job of that done. Gonna drill a couple of vent holes in the bottom, clean it up, and then it's ready for final assembly. One thing I still do need to make is an actual toilet seat, but I think I'm going to try and get that CNC'd out, because I want it, like, you know, really nice and perfect. So let me know if you are having anything CNC'd or know of someone with one. One last mod. I mentioned earlier that I had a piece of wood to divide the poop box and a little bit of storage at the back. I'm just going to cut that to the height of the poop box, and you'll see why in a second. Okay, Kelly's here now. We're just going to demonstrate what that little thing was for.
So push down the little yellow breaky things, pull it out till it clicks, then this lifts up, and then there's the new bits here, so you can put any cleaning things or anything you want in there. Wee poops. And then this lifts like this. You can put toilet rolls, things like that in there. And like the shavings. push it back in. Ah, drawers. All mine.
And that, believe it or not, is about 6 or 7 build days, so hope you enjoyed.
Next week we're doing something a little bit different. We'd love it if you could join us for a live video, so it'll be at 10 AM on Sunday.
Have a great week, guys.
1, 2, 3,
Bye!